Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's module called Lighting Your Fire, Sparking Your Inner Motivation to Reach Your Goals and to Change Your Life. I'm Gretchen Oler-Hogg, along with Dr. Jerry Eddington of Lighten Up and Thrive, Joyful Living for Mind, Body, and Soul. I'm a mind, body, soul coach and also a hypnotherapist, educator, and I'd like to call myself a catalyst for change. And Dr. Jerry Eddington calls herself a soul success coach, educator, a mediator, energy healer, and also a facilitator of change. And if you want to check out more of our programs, please go to our website, which is www.lightenupandthrive.com. As educators, Jerry and I like to outline some of the learning outcomes for you that you'll notice on slide number 5. Today's module is broken down into the following key topics: creating a fire, a way to define motivation; review common key motivators and which ones resonate most; apply the elements of motivation to personal goals; learn how to maintain goals, and learn how to rekindle your fire. Today we're going to explore several key points about motivation. We'll look at what motivation is and how it works. We'll look at those influences that can diminish or extinguish your motivation. And we'll also look at a process for reestablishing and sustaining motivation once again if you've kind of lost that motivation. And don't forget, you also have some worksheets, and the worksheets go hand in hand along with this PowerPoint presentation. So let's begin by asking what may seem like a very fundamental question, but what is motivation? We thought the metaphor of fire would be a really easy way to explain what motivation is and what it looks like. Actually, a fire is a very good metaphor because it captures some of motivation's most important qualities, such as intense passion and ardor, bursts of liveliness and brilliance, ignition and sparks of excitement. So defining motivation from the perspective of a fire makes sense. But what about you? How would you define the concept of motivation? How do you see it? It's important that we can define motivation for ourselves before accepting how others define it. Because each one of us is different, we can define motivation in a very unique way depending on our own experiences and our perspectives. So let's take a few other definitions of motivation. So please pull out your worksheet number 1, which has a title of What is Motivation? I want you to notice that there are several different variations of definitions around this concept of motivation. So please take a few moments and just read through these definitions and highlight, underline, or even circle the words and the phrases in these various definitions that resonate most with how you would define the term motivation. So let's read through maybe just a few of those. Providing a reason to act in a certain way is the first one you might notice. Or the process that arouses, sustains, and regulates behavior. The process that initiates, guides, and maintains. The process of stimulating people to action, or to be continually interested and committed to an effort. So again, you might want to just take a few moments to read through some of these definitions, and you might even want to just pause the recording while you do that. And as you can see in this simple exercise, motivation can be defined in a number of ways, and the definition of motivation will vary for each of us. But the essence for all of us is the same. It's about an inner feeling that drives us toward a goal or an experience that is meaningful in some way. So we will use the following definition of motivation. And I want you just to look at slide number 6 for a moment. What is motivation? And then we'll use this definition in slide number 7, that motivation is a driving force that initiates and directs our behavior. In other words, motivation is a kind of internal energy, much like a fire, that drives a person to do something in order to achieve something. So a few key points. Motivation in its best form is an internal force that makes you want to do something. It's what drives you towards your goal, whether that goal is to wake up early, for example, or to change a habit. Maybe it's to exercise or even run a marathon or write a book. Maybe to release some weight, organize your life, get out of debt, or countless other things that could better your life. Motivation is the key, but it's not always easy, day in and day out, to keep it burning. Just like with a flame, motivation burns bright and it also can grow dimmer. Motivation is not a constant thing that's always there. So defining motivation is only half of the foundational understanding that we need. We must also be clear on how motivation works so that we can keep it burning bright as much as possible and learn ways to fuel it when it starts to go dim. So, how would you light that fire? Well, to build a fire, you basically need 3 things: something to burn, heat, and air. To have a healthy fire, you must know how to tend to it so it remains strong. Well, the same is true of our motivation. We must know what kinds of things spark us to take action. So I'd like you to look at that slide number 8. And that is about motivational sparks. There has been a great deal of research around the concept of motivation and what motivates people. So I'm going to show you some slides that depict some of the findings from this research. The purpose of this exercise is for you to identify what motivates you most. First, I'll go through the slides, and as I do, I want you to notice your reaction to each slide and notice whether it motivates you or doesn't motivate you, and whether it fires you up or not. So now take a look at slide number 9 with the word challenge on it, and just notice. Does it motivate you or doesn't it motivate you? Does it fire you up or does it not fire you up? And then let's look at the next slide, number 10. And this one is called impact. How does this one make you feel? What do you notice? And then going on to the next one with the word power on it. Does that motivate you? Does it fire you up? And then let's look at slide number 12, wealth. How does this one make you feel? And then going to slide number 13, recognition. What do you notice how that makes you feel? Does it motivate you? Fire you up? And then on the next one, number 14, fear. Fear. How does that one make you feel? And then going to slide number 15, sense of accomplishment. Take a look at that one. And then taking a look at slide number 16 with the word creating on it. I love that picture, it's a great one. But how does it make you feel? Does it motivate you? Does it fire you up? Does it spur those creative energies within you? And then going on to slide number 17, learning. Learning. And then going on to the next slide, what motivates you? So please pull out your second worksheet, which has a title of My Motivational Sparks. Take a look at it. All of those motivators listed, which mirror the images that I just went through on the slides. And I'd like you to rate each item on how strongly this motivates you. So the directions are thinking about your responses to the motivational sparks images that you reviewed. Rate each common motivator according to how strongly it motivates you. Circle the number of sparks the motivator has for you. Write down additional personal motivators on the bottom of the worksheet. And then, for the third step, I'd like you to identify your top 3 and put a 1, 2, or 3 in the space to the left. And that's 1, 2, or 3 sparks according to how strongly it motivates you. So 1 would be not motivating at all, 2 would be somewhat motivating, and 3 would be highly motivating. So remember, you can even write down some other additional ones that are more personal motivators for you. So take a few moments, pause the recording, and just simply rate those. And now, if you haven't done this already, I'd like you to rank these as your first, second, and your third choice. And take a few moments to do that, because we're going to be using this further on in through this module. So now I'd like you to ask yourself, what did you notice about what motivates you and what doesn't? What did you discover when you had to prioritize? What did you notice on that? Was that easy? Was it difficult for you to do that? Did you have more than the first 3? So just take a moment again to reflect on that, because everyone is motivated by different things in life. We all know that. It's also important to know what lights your fire and what doesn't, because this impacts the goals that you set, the reasons that you set them, and also how easy or difficult it is for you to achieve them. So now that you know what motivates you, let's continue to explore what it takes to light your fire of motivation. And now let's look at slide number 19, which has a title of A Successful Fire. Before beginning to gather materials to make a fire, there must be a reason to start the fire in the first place. What are some reasons that you might want or need to build a fire? Well, some examples might be for heat, or maybe to cook with, maybe to signal others, or to have a central place where people will meet and chat, gather around that fire. When building a fire, there is a goal for the fire. The fire will accomplish something for us. The same is true of personal goals that we set for ourselves. Our goal is to accomplish something that will better our lives. Additionally, our desire has to be strong so that we will achieve our goal. Certain things must be true about our goal in order for it to be truly motivating to us. It must be driven by a desire to attain something you truly want. It must be in alignment with your values. It must be compelling enough that you are willing to push through the status quo to pursue it. You must believe in your goal enough that it motivates you into action. So now I'd like you to take out worksheet number 3, and this has a title called A Successful Fire. So take a look at the top of the worksheet. A fire represents a goal that you have achieved and also the motivation that spurred you on to achieve it. In this activity, I'm going to have you identify a goal that you have achieved in your life, one that was meaningful. And I'd like you to write your goal that you achieved in that number 1 slot at the top of the worksheet. So pause the recording for a moment and answer that first question, which is to identify a goal that you achieved in your life that was really meaningful to you. And now take a look at the second one on this worksheet, my motivation for it. Take a moment to reflect on your motivation for achieving this goal that you identified. Was it the motivation of being challenged, as an example, to have a sense of power, to learn something new, to be recognized, or whatever else that was for you? Pause the recording and just take a few minutes to answer that. Now, if you remember, we said that the goal needed to be compelling enough to spur you into action. You had to take a first step, just as you must take the action of putting a match to the logs to start your fire. So let's take a look at the third thing on this worksheet, the actions that I took. So look at that and write the steps that you took towards your goal in that space that's provided. And again, pause the recording for a moment so that you can answer this. And now we're going to look at the fourth part here, which has the results I experienced. Take a few more moments and write what meaningful results you experienced in your efforts to pursue your goal. And again, pause and take the time to answer that. And now for number 5. What kept my fire going? Write down what it took, how you motivated yourself, that kept you still pursuing your goal, that kept your fire burning. Pause and take a moment to answer that. And now the key points. Remember that in order to stay motivated to work towards a goal, the goal has to be compelling, in alignment with your values and your beliefs, and meaningful enough to persevere through the lulls. You also have to experience meaningful results in order to keep the fire of your own motivation going. And also that sometimes the effort is hard to sustain, and we begin to lose motivation. So, we also want to investigate the reasons why our flames die out and how to keep our motivation going, because once we recognize the reason why those flames can die out, it's a lot easier to identify how to keep the motivation going. Now, as there are many goals that we have set and achieved in our lives, there are also ones that we didn't complete. For some reason, we lost the motivation to continue pursuing them. Why does that happen? What makes the fire wane and the flames subside? I'd like you to look at slide number 20 right now. And that just is the embers that remain. Notice in this picture that the fire has really died down. What are some of those reasons that fire begins to wane? Maybe some examples might be that the fire isn't getting enough oxygen. Maybe it isn't being fed by other logs to keep it burning. Or maybe it isn't being stoked. Or it could even be like other elements like the rain or the wind that might extinguish the fire. Our own motivation is just like the fire. In the beginning, it burns strong, but when it may start to die down, we need to identify why our motivation wanes. Some reasons might be the goals feel more externally driven and not internally motivated. Maybe you don't experience enough results, or the results are too slow, or that other things become more important, or sometimes the effort feels too hard and you just get tired out. So let's take out that worksheet number 4, the fire that faded. And I'd like you to take a few moments and just think about a goal that once was important to you, but one that you did not complete. Think about what doused your motivation to continue. Did other things take over in importance, and was it too hard? Or were the results disappointing? So the first thing there is write down a recent goal that you didn't achieve. The second thing is what motivators inspired you in the beginning. And the third thing is, what factors cause you to lose your motivation to achieve your goal? So explore and write down all those deterrents to your success. And pause the recording and take as much time as you need to answer these. So here are some key points that I'd just like to recap. Just like a fire, motivation needs tending to in order for it to stay strong. It's important to know yourself well, to know what will distract and discourage you, and how to protect your goals from losing their spark. And it's just as important to know what fuels you to keep your own fire of motivation burning. Even when we know what fuels us and what douses our flames, the fire can still diminish and almost go out. So that brings us to the next topic. The good news is that we can rekindle fires of goals that once were important. So we're going to examine a process for doing just that. So this is called rekindling the fire. Now that you know what motivates you and some of those things that can occur to weaken your motivation, let's learn a process for rekindling your motivation so that you can successfully achieve goals in your life that are really important to you. So let's look at slide number 21, the steps to rekindling. And also I'd like you to pull out your next worksheet. Worksheet number 5, which has a title of the steps of rekindling. Although the fire of your goal has waned, it has not gone out completely, so imagine that you can still use this fire. You can still get it going again. Maybe you need more kindling or to blow on the burning embers. Maybe you need to move the logs around, or probably all three. Once you have determined what the fire needs, you can create the flames again and bring it back to life. The same is true for your own motivation. There are 7 steps that we can take to bring a goal back to life. The first step in the process of rekindling the fire of your motivation is to restate your goal, your original goal. The second thing is acknowledge its importance. Ask yourself, is it still important to you? Will this goal make a difference in your life? Does the goal meet the criteria of being compelling enough for you to act and to challenge your status quo, how things are currently? The third thing is to determine your motivator. What motivator is operating for you now? Are you motivated by position or wealth, power, learning, a sense of ease? The fourth step is to acknowledge progress. This means progress you made when you originally set out to accomplish this goal. Note how far you traveled towards your goal when you first pursued it. If your ultimate goal was to run a marathon, for example, did you run it as a half marathon? Or maybe you wanted to release 10 pounds. Did you at least lose 2? In rekindling your motivation, it's important to acknowledge that you are not going all the way back to the beginning and starting from square one. You already made effort, and you already made some progress. You have gained new knowledge and experience, so you already have a leg up. So in the 5th step, you put supports in place. Determine how you will keep your motivation high. In order to do so, first identify why your motivation waned in the first place. Was the goal unreasonable? Were results unsatisfying? Or did they take too long? Did other priorities get in the way? Now strategize what you will do to keep your motivation high. Will you have more reasonable expectations for results? Maybe you'll pace yourself better. Will you make sure that you celebrate each small steps along your success? And the 6th step is to determine action. Decide on a reasonable first step that you'll take. What is the first action or set of actions that you'll take to resume working towards this goal? If the marathon was your goal, but you have not been running consistently, perhaps you would reinstate a routine. Ask yourself, Is the effort I am making sustainable? Can I see this effort through the end? Make sure your plan is reasonable and your effort sustainable. Make sure you give yourself every chance for success. And then finally, in step number 7, lock it in with the benefits. One of the best motivators for achieving your goals is to determine the benefits of your efforts. Why are you pursuing this goal? What will be the benefits of your efforts? How will your life be different? Write down your benefits and keep them handy for when you need a boost in your motivation. And before we transition into the next topic, just remember it's encouraging to know that you can rekindle any goal that you might have lost the flame to. And those steps that we just explored can always be used to get you back on track. And now that you have that powerful tool for rekindling your flame of motivation, let's apply these steps to a personal goal that you would like to fulfill. Let's take out the next worksheet, number 6, a personal rekindling. Take a look at step number 1 and think again about the goal that you stopped pursuing, which you identified in the last section and which is still important to you. And I want you to write the goal down in the space provided. Take a moment to do that. And then look at the second step there and identify why this goal is important to you now. Some of the questions to answer are, what has changed about you that makes you want to rekindle your motivation to achieve that goal now? What is different about the circumstances or what you understand about yourself or the importance of the goal? What is missing from your life because you haven't pursued the goal? That's a great one. How will your life be impacted in the future if you don't pursue it? How will it feel? So take a few moments and write down your answers. You can pause the recording to do that. On to the third step here. I want you just to reflect for a moment on your current motivators to achieve your desired goals. And I want you to write your answers down for that. So step number 3 is determine your motivators. What is motivating me to complete my goal now? Pause the recording and take a few moments to do that. And then the fourth step, acknowledge progress. What progress did I make? Answer that one. Where am I starting from now? Pause again and answer that question. And then the fifth step in here is to select your supports. Maybe the first time around you didn't have the right kind of support in place, that right kind of support that helped keep you motivated. So answer that question. How will I keep motivated and keep my motivation high this time? What supports can I put into place to support me in my success? Pause the recording and answer that. And step number 6 is identify what actions that you need to take to recommit to your goal. What's your first step? What are the next steps that'll keep you moving forward? Pause and answer those questions. And then the last step in this process is to lock it in with benefits. And the easiest way to do that is really to imagine how your life will be different when you achieve your goals. That's called future pacing, and it actually helps create a lot of different pathways in your mind for you to very successfully achieve your goals. And a key point to make here is that the rekindling process is really powerful for refueling your motivation to help you achieve your goals. You'll have a much greater chance of success if you know why you are pursuing your goals, and then also that you have a proper plan and those supports in place. You know that you can rekindle the fire of your own motivation if the goal is still important to you. And then it really just takes commitment and action. So it's important for us to understand how to best tend to our fire of motivation and also to know what sparks you, why you lose your motivation, and also how you can ensure that your motivation stays high. And so just some final thoughts. Just pause and reflect on some of the things that you've learned about your motivation and how you will use that rekindling process in the future. Throughout this training, you examine the fire of motivation, what motivations are strongest for you, what douses your flame, and how to also rekindle the goals that are important to you. So I'd like you to look at that slide number 21, which just has a match with a beautiful flame on it. So reflect on that for a moment, along with what you've learned and about your motivations. And as you turn your attention to this image of the match, imagine that's your flame that's getting stronger and stronger, and you are in a very high state of motivation. So look at that. Look at that, and then ask yourself, what words come to your mind when you imagine what is motivating you so strongly? And then I want you to write those down. Looking at that, what words come to mind? And then going forward, you know what motivates you, and also what gets in the way of your own motivation. And now you have these tools to rekindle any goal that's important to you. And here's a final quote from Winston Churchill, who said it best when he said, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." That's a great quote. You also have one more worksheet that we call Home Play. Lighting Your Fire, Motivations Celebration. And it's just a simple process that you can use at any time, because one of the biggest keys to staying motivated is seeing results. Your external results fuels your internal motivation. And so just acknowledge those results. It's important to celebrate those. And then just to look at the final key points. Remember that we have a much greater chance of success if we know why we are pursuing our goals and have the proper plans and supports in place. It takes commitment and action to maintain the goals, and then you can just apply that rekindling process to help you achieve whatever those personal goals are for you. So remember, lighting your fire, sparking your inner motivation to reach your goals and change your life. These are some simple steps to help you identify all of your goals, what thwarts you, and also how to get you back on track. In this program, we've also grouped financial calm, money wellness, and also the A to Z's of success. We'd also like to just point your attention to our website, which is www.lightenupandthrive.com, where we also have some other 28-day soul coaching programs that are called Let Your Soul Shine and Letting Go into the Flow. We really want to thank you for your participation, and also hope you've enjoyed lighting your fire and put this into action. We look forward to sharing our other educational modules and in any of our other series, or in any of our standalone modules or our exciting home study programs. And simply keep thriving.